Feel it.
Explore it, feel it, notice it. What else?
Become good with it.
Become one with it, right? Become one with it. And when we say become one in Zen, we mean explore, feel, think. It's a total experience. Becoming one with something is being it, right? Be it. Don't just be mindful of it or think about it or even just feel it, but be it. How do you be it? What do you have to do in order to be the disappointment?
You have to go towards rather than away.
That's the first step, right? Now, everything in our psyche will tell us do not at first. Because it's like that flame there, right? That flame, as we get closer and closer and closer, is getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And again, deep genetic memory teaches us, do not go there. Do not get any closer, because what will happen? Burn. And what happens when you get burned? It's painful, right? Now there's an instance where there's no need to do it. It's not something that's already happening. Why create more pain? But when we're talking about psychological pain, which of course is not just psychological, there's always a somatic or physiological element to it. If it's actually happening when we're sitting there, right, or when we're experiencing this, okay, we have these expectations that have not been met by another person, by Zen, by me, by Melbourne, by your job, by your life, by the noise on the street. It's too noisy. I'm expecting it to be quiet when I come and meditate. There's a lot of noise here, in case you haven't noticed. Actually, you don't usually notice it after a while, oddly enough. All these expectations, and then we get disappointed all the time. So, if we can become one at that moment, if we can be that mindful that that's what is happening, right, and then allow ourselves to, in this instance, experience the totality of that pain, of that discomfort. Now, this doesn't just apply to disappointment, obviously. We're talking about a model here for how to use our meditation and use the experience in our life for awakening. Because what happens when we do that, when we become one with it? Well, first of all, I'm going to answer my own question, because I do this. This is my practice I do all the time. First of all, I resist going into it because it hurts and I hate it. First of all, I hate it. And then I decide, no matter how much I hate this, I'm going to allow myself to experience it in my body. I'm not going to prevent myself from experiencing it, because for the first 25, 30 years of my life, almost 40 years, I didn't allow myself to do that to any large degree. And I've decided I'm going to now. I hate it, by the way. I still hate it. I hate doing it. I hate starting out doing it because it's so uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like you're just going to throw up even. It's just this deep, visceral resistance. It's not necessarily here. It can be here. It can be here. It's usually in one of the chakras or energy centers, by the way. It can be anywhere in your body, but it's often in one of the energy centers. That's what I find in working with myself and others. Then what happens if we're able to then go totally into it and become one with it? Does anyone have this experience? What happens when you do that?
It dissipates.
It dissipates and dissolves, right? But this can take a while to happen. It doesn't necessarily happen instantaneously. It could, technically. But it may be a while before we will allow ourselves to totally go into that sensation. We totally allow ourselves to feel what it is that we're calling disappointment, what it is we're calling anger, what it is we're calling resistance, right? We always have a name we put on these things. I call it anger. Now, for instance, when I work with people with the dialogue process, we actually identify the voice of anger. You know, okay, let's dialogue with the voice of anger, but what is it really? Yeah, we can break it down into a voice and work with it in that way, but what is it? Well, when you really get down to it, and it's very difficult to do this redirect in many cases, that concept that is anger is actually a sensation. There's a sensation in the body that we are labeling as anger in this case. We have been trained over the years to identify this sensation as anger and to call it anger.
Never really find anything in my brain. It's always somewhere.
Yes. You won't find any of this. The brain, by the way, doesn't have any pain sensation, evidently. I've read this anyway. But the body sure does. There's billions of them all over the place. Are you getting the gist of what I'm getting at here? What we're getting at here? The reason we're able to get at this, by the way, is that you are all here. And the more present that everyone is here, the more that we will be able to get at this together. This isn't just me, or it isn't just you listening to me. It is us manifesting a kind of presence through this process that enables us to examine this and have it resonate, right? That resonating is the important part, not the words, by the way. In Zen, the words are never it. They're always just pointing at something that we need to experience. We need to actually embody and experience what the words are pointing at. What the words are pointing at in this case is experience of this body-mind reality. Not the delusion of who we are, but the reality of what I'm actually experiencing. Even the very word anger or concept anger is a delusion on a certain level because it's just a concept. It's not a thing. It's not what it actually is. And what it is actually, nobody else can tell you that. I can't tell you. Only you can know that. And the only way you can know that is by consulting your own inner wisdom and consulting your own mindfulness. Employing, I should say, your own mindfulness to consult your own inner wisdom. The Buddha said when he was dying, be a lamp unto yourself. It was his last teaching. You cannot get this information from me. You cannot get it from any guru, workshop leader, or anyone else. I'm not saying you can't get inspiration or you can't experience somebody's presence, but ultimately, you have to do this yourself. You have to be willing to go into the pain and the discomfort of the expectation that's not being met. I'm not awakened enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough at koans. I'm not good enough at Zen, whatever Zen is. Al's not a good enough teacher. That's the true part. It's too noisy in here. I expect it to be quieter when I'm meditating. Why? Why, by the way? What's that have to do with anything? What does quiet have to do with meditating? It has nothing to do with meditating. Is it ever quiet? You go out into the forest, it's just as loud except it's birds. But that's good quiet. We like that.
Yeah,
It's bad quiet. It's buses and Harleys coming by. It's bike week in Daytona, so you get a lot of Harleys. Is that bad? Can't meditate with Harleys?
It's hard to meditate with a TV going.
Is it? Maybe it's hard, but is that not meditating? So, let's just re-examine this again. We have these ideas. They manifest as things we want, or things we think should be a certain way, right? Our habitual patterns kick in as soon as we realize, or I should say, as soon as we have those kinds of expectations arise. Those habitual patterns, in case you haven't noticed, are extremely powerful. So it takes some real concentrated practice and mindfulness to cut through that. So we employ this mindfulness and we begin to experience the fact that we're disappointed because we're not getting what we want. Of course, we want what we want all the time, not just 98%, pretty much all the time. How often do we get that, by the way? Never, right? Never get all we want all the time. I think for really short little periods we feel like we have. It's really short. And the rest of the time we spend trying to get back to that short little time.